with that out of the way, let's go right ahead and get into this final NFL recap. Obviously, it's Week 18, and all of the records, they've been decided. All of the draft placement has also been decided, and the teams that are in the playoffs have also been decided. And for the most part, it's very, the outcome of this is rather expected, aside from maybe the Commanders. I really did not expect the Commanders to end up making the playoffs at all this season, but hey, they surprised me. And anything, at least in my opinion, anything is better than letting these Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs, honestly. I am so happy that this is every single Cowboys fan right now. They have a 7-10 record. They deserve sadness. They deserve nothing but, and to make things even worse for them, Jerry, he wants to stay. He is going to continue being the owner of the terrible organization that is the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to continue being the emperor in his little emperor room. It really looks like the emperor's room if you look at Jerry's office whenever the Cowboys are drafting. The results of a lot of these wins, obviously, the most surprising one to me is the Bears beating the Packers, because that usually never ever happens. I mean, we never ever see the Bears beat the Packers, and when they do, the last time we saw that was almost 8 or so years ago. I mean, it was a very long time that the Bears continued to lose to the Packers. I mean, it was a running joke that the Packers, they completely own the Bears, and it doesn't matter who plays against, which quarterback is under center for the Packers, they always end up beating the Bears. But in this matchup, I mean, they benefited mainly because the Packers had to bench Jordan Love and play Malik Willis. Now, that's not because they wanted to bench him, but it's because Jordan Love ended up leaving the game due to an injury. And they also had to assess Christian Watson for an injury as well, which is not good for the Packers, considering how now they're going to go into the postseason, most likely without their starting quarterback. So, not a very ideal situation for Green Bay right now, especially after losing to the team that you just destroy every single year. Caleb Williams didn't really play all that well in this game. He threw 1 touchdown and threw for 148 yards. Again, that's not really that impressive of a game. He also had an interception negated because of I forgot exactly what penalty it was, but there was a penalty thrown on the play, and that ultimately negated Caleb Williams' pick. But this is not a very ideal situation for the Packers. Now, the Colts, they ended up beating the Jaguars, a rather meaningless game. It would have meant a lot to them if they would have actually beaten the Giants in that week before. The Panthers, they ended up beating the Falcons. I will say this. Bryce Young has resurged like a madman. It is crazy just how much better he's playing now than what he was in the beginning of the season. I mean, 3 touchdowns, 251 yards, and was able to beat the Falcons. Now, the Falcons, they wouldn't have made the playoffs anyways, because the Buccaneers, they ended up beating the Saints 27-19 to have a record of 10-7 and still host a wild card game. Also, Mike Evans ended up recording 11 straight consecutive seasons where he was able to get 1,000 receiving yards. Despite the injury, despite missing several games, he was still able to record 1,000 receiving yards, which is nothing short of impressive. Probably one of the most underrated wide receivers in the history of the NFL. And he did not record a touchdown in this game, but 89 yards, and that accolade is more than enough to cement himself. In my opinion, he should be, at the very least, a top 5 wide receiver when he retires, but most likely that's not going to happen, which is why I think he is the most underrated receiver in the entire history of the NFL. I mean, this is an accolade that only Jerry Rice has been able to accumulate. That is incredible. The consistency, the efficiency, it's amazing. Obviously, the Giants, they ended up losing to the Eagles because what else is new? The Commanders, they beat the Cowboys because that's exactly what Jerry gets. That's what the Cowboys get for being bad. And they were both of those teams and their standings in the playoffs and in the draft, they were already decided. The Commanders, they were going to make the playoffs as an away wild card, and the Cowboys, they weren't going to make the playoffs anyway. Now, speaking on the draft order, this is also very big. The Giants, they hold the third draft pick, which means they could either draft Shedeur, Cam Ward, or Travis Hunter. And I have no problem with any of those three picks. Like, genuinely have no problem with either of those picks, really. The teams that are above them in the draft order are now the Titans and the Browns. That was the team, yeah. The Titans and the Browns. The Patriots, they held the number one pick in the draft. They controlled their destiny going into this game, and they surprisingly end up beating the Bills. Now, obviously, I'm very surprised at this. The Bills, they did not play Josh Allen, so it makes sense. But again, the Patriots did not play Drake May, and they also started Joe Milton out of nowhere. And Joe Milton surprisingly balled out in this game. But still, this is like a very surprising outcome to this game. One that I'm very happy because, I'm very happy that this ended up happening because in the end of the day, the Giants, they really needed a top 3 pick, and here they are. Now, the Patriots, they ended up firing their head coach almost directly after this game. No, it wasn't because they ended up winning. And also, the Giants are going to stick with their general manager as well as their head coach going into next season. Little mixed feelings on that, but I will talk about that in a future segment. Not today, but probably tomorrow. Let's see, what other outcomes? What other games? The Seahawks, they beat the Rams. That game was incredibly meaningless because the Rams have already cemented their spot in the division as the best team, and they hold the tiebreaker, so they're not going to... Nothing is going to change. And the Jets, they beat the Dolphins 32-20. With this result, Tyreek Hill decided to request a trade. He did this like around 20 minutes ago. He requested a trade. I will say, though, that this is probably like the worst year of Tyreek Hill's entire career. I'm not entirely sure how many teams are willing to pay all of that money just to have Tyreek Hill on the roster based off of this performance from last year. But he's Tyreek Hill, so I wouldn't be surprised if anyone is going to... I wouldn't be surprised. Again, it might not happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen. Also, this might be Aaron Rodgers' last year as a quarterback for a team. The Chiefs, they did not score a single point against the Broncos. They did not want to face Joe Burrow in the postseason, which makes sense. They lost 38-0. It was embarrassing, but again, they were playing their third string, so not that embarrassing. Chargers, they beat the Raiders 34-20. And finally, in probably the most important regular season game in NFL history, the Vikings lost to the Lions 31-9, moving them to 14-3 and forcing them to play the Rams in the wild card. And the Lions, they end up getting the first round bye, and they're going to play whichever team ends up advancing in the wild card. Obviously, we're going to have to see which team that is. It's a little too early to tell. But the wild card teams right now, the Chargers, they're going up against the Texans. The Steelers, they're going up against the Ravens. The Broncos, they're going up against the Bills. The Packers are going up against the Eagles. Commanders are going up against the Bucks. And the Vikings are going up against the Rams. And I'll talk about the matchups and who I think is the favorite to win in each of these matchups in a later segment. But now we're going to go ahead and go into the second segment where I talk about Tyreek Hill and him wanting out of Miami. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in